The TexAgs High School Football Show is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy Sports and Outdoors has all your high school football road trip needs for this season. Get the right gear for the season with free curbside pickup today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. All right, everybody, week 2 of the TexAgs High School Football Show. I'm Ryan Brauninger, joined on Zoom via his home in DFW, Mr. Jason Howell. And what a week 1, man. It felt so good to get back out there. The TexAgs team as a whole, myself, Jason, our intern Walker, we had a photographer out. All in all, we got to 10 Texas high school football games. So there's a ton to talk about. There's a ton to break down from across the state. And Jason, we'll start with you. And you saw one of the bigger upsets on the weekend to get your Texas high school football season started there on Thursday was it Mary Hardin Baylor?
Yeah, right there at Crusader Stadium. Denton Ryan falls 33-34 to New Braunfels, and I'll be honest, did not see that one coming at all. Ryan, they had a sloppy day. Really talented team. A lot of penalties, drops. Errant passes. They had some special teams miscues. Had a couple PATs missed, but 5-star Anthony Hill was a monster all day long. I think the only thing that slowed him down was just being on the field too long. And credit to New Braunfels, that second half, they took control of that game and really had some really long extended drives. Played very, very good, well coached, football. Kept it clean, came up with some big plays. Quarterback Leighton Adams, really interesting prospect in his first start. 60% completion, over 300 yards. Had a rushing touchdown to give them the lead. So he had a huge night. And then, but Anthony Hill was phenomenal from down one. Had several tackles. He was in pass coverage. He was. Every area of the field he was touching, and he was making his presence felt. Had a touchdown run right before the half to give Ryan a couple score lead, and what looked like it was going to kind of give them control of the game. But credit to New Braunfels, they stuck around, and Leighton Adams had his big game, and receiver Lance Bagley. Talk about clutch, 5 receptions, 107 yards. He had a huge night. If you've seen the clip of Anthony Hill dropping into coverage and knocking the guy out, that was Lance Bagley. And guess what? He made that catch. So he was doing some work. But did not see that coming. And honestly, I don't know if we'll see Ryan drop another game.
That's what I'm about to say. That could be the wake-up call they needed.
But yeah, I mean, this may be the shot in the arm that kind of gets them looking in the right direction and focused. But definitely some miscues there. But as talented as ever, and I think you're going to see Denton Ryan be a factor come, title talk still.
Well, then on Friday, you saw Austin Westlake, who was in a battle for a while with Fort Bend Ridgepoint. But I think their class and their depth kind of really showed out toward the end of that game.
Well, I'll tell you what, and Colton Vasic, he had hit after hit on, I'm forgetting the young man's name, Samson, oh my goodness. But the starting quarterback for Ridgepoint, he was doing work back there. He was, completing some passage. Mason Dossett had a nice game going, and then he gets knocked out. Vasic got to him one too many times, and he goes out with an injury, and that changed the complexion of the game. Plus Westlake, once they took that lead, I think they took it right before halftime. They never looked back. And TJ Shanahan, go check out the video if you haven't seen it on TexAgs. It's he is just falling on top of people. And one of those guys is DK Kalu, who's headed to Baylor, and another one is headed to Tulsa. So I mean, and he's taking those guys and moving them back. They wanted no part of him. He did everything you would think. Jaden Greathouse, Notre Dame commit for Westlake, made his presence felt in in the return game as well as a receiver. But that offense, man, Westlake,
Keaton Quebecca's
they
a good
look
player.
like Westlake,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
So
it's going to be tough to knock them off. And so, like, you had a great one on Thursday. Then I thought you were on the course. I was like, is he going to see 2 upsets in week 1? But then Westlake they decided, no, Mr. Howell, we're going to make things right here on Friday. And I love, like you said, the video of TJ Shanahan that you were posting was fantastic. He's so much fun. Like, a lot of times you go watch an offensive lineman and you really don't know what you're going to get. But in terms of highlights, but TJ, he gave you plenty of highlights, and then wanted to let you know that we at TexAgs have him too low. And
absolutely.
I think we agree now.
Yeah, well, he'll be moving on up. Absolutely, you can take that to the bank there, Mr. Shanahan.
Well, an offensive lineman that we can't move up anymore is Ashton Funk at Katy Compton's, our number 1 player in the state at 2024, and saw him open his season against Cy Ranch on Thursday night. Fantastic ball game. Katy Tompkins wins at 31-23. Kind of a back and forth affair. Cy Ranch kept it close, just close enough where you're like, man, they're not out of the game. Katy Tompkins couldn't put them away. But as that game went on, you started to see Ashton Funk get better and better. And by the second half, when fatigue started setting in, it was a really humid night in Houston. And once that fatigue started setting in on the Cy Ranch side, Ashton Funk was moving people against their will at a very, very high rate. I wanted to shout out Christian Braithwaite, linebacker at Cy Ranch, played a fantastic game. Get ready to hear his name a bunch in Greater Houston. He was sideline to sideline, up and down the field, made a ton of plays. Ashton Porter, the defensive end at Cy Ranch, he went out with an injury, but he's committed to Northwestern. He showed out a couple of times, and a kid that came onto the scene early with his physicality, he showed that physicality a few times up and down the line of scrimmage. But Katy Tompkins pulls out the win, and I'll tell you what, man, it's a kid that I've been on, and I've been telling you about, Wyatt Young, 2024 receiver, running back, returner there at Katy Tompkins. Keep an eye on that kid. Got my early vote as the most slept-on player in Greater Houston, especially skill player in Greater Houston. He was sensational in the second half, still playing a little dinged up, but played through it, and he was just huge play after huge play to really help Katy Tompkins propel them to the win. On Friday, I started in Houston, and I just kept going west. So Friday I went over to LaGrange and saw them take on Belleville, see Bravion Rogers. Want to send special shout-out and prayers to Jaron Woods, the defensive lineman from LaGrange that is committed to Baylor. Really as nasty of an injury as I've seen with my own eyes at a high school game. It's just really bad. And all the reports that we've gotten are that he'll make a full recovery and he'll be back 4 to 6 months maybe, back running and moving around. So very thankful for that. But that was that took the air out of the game early on. And then Belleville just took the air out of the game with the way they run the ball on offense. But talked to Bravion Rogers afterward. Not much for him to do when he's playing against an offense like Belleville that runs that split slot T. Not much for a cornerback to do. And then when he got the ball on offense, there wasn't much space because of a kid that I think we're all going to get to know his name as the years roll on, DJ Sanders, defensive lineman from Belleville, class of 2025. Jason, this kid is 6'3", maybe a little bit more, 295, 300 pounds, and bouncy and athletic and explosive. Yeah. He was a human wrecking machine on Friday night. LaGrange couldn't block him, so LaGrange couldn't get the ball to Bravion Rogers, and it kind of screwed up their whole offensive game plan. He was super impressive.
Well, and he's a guy I want to say that was on varsity last year, maybe even all district. So he has some really good film out there if you want to go check out some of his last year stuff. But yeah, what you posted from the game, man, he was getting some. He was in that backfield constantly, it looked like. He's
violent, and then A&M obviously saw it. They offered a day later. He's actually the younger cousin of Emmanuel Sanders, who's, I believe, still in the NFL. So that's a name to keep an eye on if you're in kind of the country areas of outside of Houston, that Belleville, LaGrange area. He's certainly a name to know, and Belleville gets the win, and then they find themselves in the 4A top 10 as a result of that win. Then on Saturday, Stayed the night in the beautiful Best Western Inn and Suites there in LaGrange, then drove over Saturday morning to the Alamo Dome to see a triple header. And, man, you want to talk about bangers. The 2-1-0 showed out on Saturday. San Antonio produced 3 fantastic high school football games. Started with Smithson Valley beating San Antonio Reagan 14-13. Then I believe it was, Converse Judson 46, San Antonio Johnson 43. More on that one in a minute. That one went to overtime.
Yeah.
And then the finale, Cibolo Steel 35, San Antonio Brennan 34. Just 3 absolute classics to start the season. Really fun day of football. A lot of work, a lot on your feet, but certainly when the games are like that, it makes it easier. Freddie DeBose was fantastic, 2024 receiver from Smithson Valley. Unfortunate, he gets hurt at the end of the game. Now we find out that's an MCL, Terrier's MCL. He's out for the season, but, man, he was off to a fantastic start. He led the team in rushing and receiving in that win for Smithson Valley. A&M commit Colton Thomason. He just keeps getting better. He just keeps getting better. And so that's like I've told you before, he's kind of my Hunter Herb of this class. Like, stop going this way. Slowly and steady, stop going that way. And by the end of the year, I think A&M will have found themselves a really, really, really good offensive lineman. And he is as steadfast and as firm in his commitment as you could possibly want a kid to be. In game 2, Converse Judson, very interesting here, Jason. Anthony Evans is a highly recruited kid. Made his college decision last Friday. A lot of momentum with Georgia leading into that decision until about 48 hours before the commitment. Things start going Oklahoma's way. Well, he chooses Oklahoma on Friday. He shows up to the game Saturday wearing Georgia gloves. And then we hear that he's probably going to be in College Station a couple of times this fall. So keep an eye on that recruitment, but he's super talented. Super talented. He can run by just about anybody in the state. I mean, it's elite speed. And I also think he improved on his route running. He looked much more crisper, much more comfortable in the intermediate stuff. Converse Judson has changed their offense. They've gone to a really up-tempo, throw it around as much as they can kind of offense. So Anthony Evans should have a fantastic year. But the biggest breakout star that I saw the entire weekend, and I think he made a name for himself across the state of Texas with his performance, was 2025 San Antonio Johnson quarterback Ty Hawkins. Has an offer from UTSA and Incarnate Word after camping at those places this summer. But Jason, he threw for 350 and 5 touchdowns and also ran for 150 and another touchdown. Just simply sensational. Just kept making play after play and creating magic out of the pocket and essentially willing that San Antonio Johnson team, who man for man wasn't nearly as talented as Converse Judson, but they were able to get it back close, and then they forced a punt. Converse Judson had to punt with like a minute left or less than a minute left. San Antonio Johnson was probably going to get the ball with no timeouts and around, I think I had done the math, they were going to get it around 27, 30 seconds left, something like that. Well, on the punt, the snap goes over the punter's head for Judson. He could have picked it up and ran it out of the back of the end zone or kicked it out of the back of the end zone, and he had enough time to pick it up and punt it still. Even after it went over his head, he could have got a kickoff. He did neither. He tried to weave through traffic. He gained about 3 yards, and San Antonio Johnson got the ball down by 8 with like 40-something seconds left at the 12-yard line. So they score. They got to get the 2-point conversion. Ty Hawkins goes Superman over defenders on a scramble to tie it. But Converse Judson's defense ends up they stood up big in overtime and forced a field goal. San Antonio Johnson misses, and then Judson converts their field goal. Just an incredible football game. And then the final one was just as good. Cibolo Steel and San Antonio Brennan. Maybe not as much for high-end college players as we've saw in those other games, but 2 really talented teams that'll make deep, deep runs out of that San Antonio area. So it was a fantastic 12 hours of football there at the Alamo Dome. And anytime that you can go get 3 games in a day, it makes the job a lot more fun and a lot more – you get a lot of work done. Yeah,
absolutely. It's something I may be doing this week. But before we get into that, man, I know there's some other games out there.
Sure. There was too. What were there some scores in Dallas that stood out to you?
This one didn't surprise me. I picked Allen as a dark horse kind of state champion contender there in 6A. They lost to John Bosco out of California, 52-14. Didn't surprise me, but it was a big game, and Allen had a really rough night. But I think that's a team that over the course of the year, you're going to see continued improvement, and in that district, it's going to prepare them for a playoff run, like I said last week. And then Parish Episcopal over Aledo, 24-17. You got TAPS champion taking it to Aledo at home, and on the blue turf there at Parish Episcopal, and Sawyer Anderson is a 25 quarterback to watch. He can spread it around as well as anybody you'll find out there. Had 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and Daniel Demery had a huge night on defense for Parish Episcopal to spur that one on. One that I thought was going to be real close, Waxahachie and Ennis. This is a game I want to say it went to overtime.
Isn't that a big rivalry?
It is. It's a huge rivalry down there. That's one that both teams have a ton of talent and some powerful offensive weapons. But Waxahachie pulls away for the 42-2 win. And that, to me, that is a big signal that those guys down there and at the Hatch are about to put on a show in 2022.
I'm sure Damani Richardson will be pumped.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yep.
It's they got something brewing down there. They've got some really, explosive weapons that are upperclassmen, and they've got some young guys that can really do some big things as well. So they're a tough-minded team. It's going to be fun to watch.
Just a couple in Houston that stood out to me. I picked the Woodlands as my dark horse team in Greater Houston to maybe pull off some upsets and be a problem down the line. Who knows? They may figure it out. They opened the season with North Shore, and we had questions about North Shore after losing so much to graduation, and they answered those questions in a big way. They reminded us that they are still the class of the city of Houston. They beat the Woodlands 49-21, and it wasn't even that close. I think at halftime, I think it was something like 49-7, and just incredible. What John Kay's got rolling down there on the east side of Houston is simply phenomenal. And then I did want to say, keep an eye out. So Fort Bend Marshall played Klein. Klein, not a storied program, but it is a 6A program. And Fort Bend Marshall gets a win, 14-7 win over a 6A program. And Fort Bend Marshall's numbers are at the bottom of 5A Division II. So they're almost punching up 3 divisions. Pretty impressive stuff there. I'll be really interested to see what they do this week against Crosby, and that's a great segue into where we will be this week and kind of what we're looking forward to here in week 2. I'm going to start tomorrow night. I guess if you're watching this, it'll be tonight because we're filming it on a Wednesday. It goes out on a Thursday. But Thursday night, I will be at Planet Ford Stadium on the north side of Houston to see Spring Westfield, who's off to a fantastic start, take on Fort Bend Hightower, a team who I think a lot of people are sleeping on in terms of talent. They'll have P.J. Hatter. Taji Atkins is a running back at Spring Westfield. P.J. Hatter, their quarterback. Really good player. Raekwon Bell, a 2024 offensive line there at Spring Westfield. Super talented roster there for the Mustangs. And then Zion Kearney is the main man, the lead man for Fort Bend Hightower, but it is, like I said, a very talented roster. And then on Friday, a huge game for me on the west side of Houston. Tascasita travels to Legacy Stadium to take on Katy. Now, I've said that there may be, that second pack of teams may be getting closer to Katy and North Shore. North Shore said not so fast on that last week, blowing out the Woodlands. We'll see if Atascocita is catching up to that group with this battle against Katy. I'm really looking forward to that one, Jason, because when you go watch A&M commit Samu Tamanu Pepe, the defensive tackle at Atascocita, when you go watch him play and they play against a spread offense, you really don't get to see him do what he's going to do at the collegiate level. But Katy ain't going to spread it out. They're going to turn and hand it off and run it right at you with Seth Davis, the Mississippi State commit. And so I'll be really interested to see what kind of game Samu has against that powerful Katy offensive line. But looking forward to those two. And like I said, that's a big, big one on Friday at Atascocita at Katy.
Well, and I'll be at a couple games myself up here. I'm sticking local, no Central Texas for me this time. I'll be out in Arlington for a little mesquite horn and Arlington Bowie action. No offers for Texas A&M in this game, but there is a stud 2025 offensive lineman, Lamont Rogers, that everybody is buzzing about up here. 6'5", 270 pounds. He was a starter on the basketball team, and just a real athlete and already attracting major college interest. So Alabama and A&M showing some interest. There's some programs out there taking a long look at this guy already. So ready to get out there and see Mesquite Horn and what they're going to do against always tough Arlington Bowie team. And then on Friday night, I will be out in Cedar Hill to see Arlington Martin and Cedar Hill face off. Martin's coming off a big win over Lake Travis. There were some that I happened to pick that one correct, but Arlington Martin has a lot of weapons on offense and defense. Javian Toviano, cornerback, and
I like
Texas
that offensive
A&M
lineman
target.
they've got there too.
Yeah. Well, they've got several. Makai Sena is a guy to watch. Has an A&M, picked up an A&M offer at camp, and then they've got the guy right next to him, Demetrius Sago, is already has a Texas Tech offer. They've got a big tackle. I'm blanking on his name, and then they got a young one that's already seeing a lot of interest in the 25 class. Very big across the front lines. You've got some really exciting playmakers. Tristan Biddle at quarterback. You've got it's going to be a lot of fun. And Cedar Hill at home, coming off a loss to Rockwall. I got a feeling they're going to look to rebound. With a strong effort there. And then Saturday, we'll see. I'm still waiting to hear back, but I may be down in Fort Worth for the I-20 Classic, where you have Duncanville facing off against Orlando Jones out of Florida. And then you got DeSoto, who is coming off a big win at Nike over St. Aug. They're going to be taking on St. Francis out of Maryland, who just beat East St. Louis. So very, very tough teams with a lot of talent on Saturday, and may be checking in from that action as well.
Well, and a game we need to keep an eye on too. You mentioned we've mentioned TJ Shanahan and Johnny Bolins in this program. Austin Westlake hosting Converse Judson. On the road, I believe, at Converse Judson this week. That'll be a big one. Really good barometer for Converse Judson in this new offense. Can they move the ball against that really high-powered and ferocious Austin Westlake defense? Is there any other games across the state that I may be overlooking here? Some really important ones? Geyer against Aledo.
Geyer and Aledo. Geyer looked great against Rockwall Heath. Not to overblow what they did. I mean, it was a big win for Geyer, but Rockwall Heath is a new coach, new quarterback, lost a lot of pieces, very important pieces from last year. But Geyer did what they should do with a team like Rockwall Heath and took them out. Aledo's going to be looking to rebound. It's going to be tough. But then you got South Lake Carroll against Flower Mound Marcus. Denton Ryan looking to get back on track against a powerhouse program out of Arkansas and Bryant at the Battle on the Border in Shreveport on Friday night. And I'm looking at Argyle, Lucas Lovejoy. If you're looking for kind of these are 5A programs, so it's not exactly small school, but if you're looking for a couple, kind of under the radar schools or schools that used to be small schools that are kind of up and coming in the higher divisions, Argyle and Lucas Lovejoy should be full of excitement there.
Well, I was going to say two teams on my radar that made a big statement last weekend that we haven't mentioned. One was Lucas Lovejoy, a 52-27 winner over College Station. I think Lucas Lovejoy is going to give South Oak Cliff all they want in that 5A Division II category there in DFW. And another one in 5A Division I, keep an eye on Port Arthur Memorial. Okay.
Yeah.
They blow the doors off of P&G in their opener, 50-15. I had some people from Southeast Texas reach out and text me and said, man, they look really good. They're really physical.
Well,
obviously, we always know they're really fast. And I've heard they've got a quarterback that can get the ball out to the weapon. So it's going to be really interesting to watch Coach Brian Morgan and the Titans this year. And now that they've moved, it's incredible, Jason, that they're in Region 2. So you could have a Week 1 playoff matchup in 5A Division I, Region 2, Port Arthur Memorial against one of these teams from Dallas. That's how the regions are this year. Pretty crazy.
Well, and I'd also keep a lookout for South Oak Cliff and Lancaster. That's going to be another big game. Sure. I look for South Oak Cliff to rebound pretty well there.
All right, man. Well, be safe on the road. We'll be right back here next week to bring you guys along. Hopefully you got us tuned in on your way to a football stadium across the state of Texas. We always enjoy talking about it, bringing it to you. So stay with us throughout the remainder of the year and the remainder of the week. We'll be right back here next Wednesday to talk about what's going on across the state of Texas. For Jason Howell, I'm Ryan Brauninger. That's the TexAgs High School Football Show.